to piano lesson number 6. Today I'm going to be showing you guys some more miscellaneous stuff on sheet music. Stuff like intervals, sharps and flats, and some dynamic signs and other stuff so that you'll have a general idea of how to read most stuff on the sheet music. After this, you guys should have a pretty good idea of general things. And then I'm going to show you some other things. Okay, so the idea here is to get you guys more, just get your feet wet on theory, and then once you've got all this in your head, you'll continue to work on that while I start showing you guys more advanced techniques on the piano itself. So don't get all, antsy to play the piano and everything like that, because you will be. This is just some important stuff that will help you guys learn further. And if you guys don't want to learn this, you can always just skip ahead to another video and just learn those things. Okay, so let's get started. So the first thing we're going to look at is something called intervals. Now you probably should remember this from my previous video. I was showing you about seconds, thirds, fourths, and fifths. Like a second sounds like this. A third is. A fourth is. See how they're getting bigger apart? This is the fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth. So I've drawn them out here on the board. Okay? Now, there's two types of ways to draw an interval. There is harmonic and melodic. Now, when you have a harmonic interval, it's as if you play the two notes in that interval together like this. This is a harmonic third. Now this is a melodic third. So I play them separately. So how you draw them differently is instead of all together, you draw them in its own separate space. So when you have a line like this and you have these notes drawn like that, you're expected to play both of them at the same period of time. So think of this as one window of time, and then this is the next, and this is the next, and this is the next. Now I didn't put a time signature here, so this actually has no rhythm or anything like that. This is just free flowing whatever crap. It just, excuse my language, but it's just going wherever it wants to go. I haven't really given it any rules or whatever. This is just for information purposes. I'm showing you some stuff. Okay, so you might see this, and it's common. You'll see something called a second. And seconds they actually look like you should play them one after another, but they're not, okay? Look at this one carefully. It's an F and a G, and they're side by side, but they're sort of separated. They're not actually fully on top of each other because they're so close together that if they were on top of each other, they'd just be one big note. So they have to put them offset a little bit, but you're supposed to play them at the same time, okay? So a second goes from this space to this line. This is something that's important to notice here. A second goes from a space to a line. A fourth goes from a space to a line, but it's a farther apart jump. A sixth goes from a space to a line, and an eighth goes from a space to a line. So that's something you want to keep in your mind, is that when you're doing an even number jump, right, an even interval, so 2, 4, 6, or 8, it's always going to be going from a space to a line, or a line to a space. So it's always a different type of note, okay? So, but then the flip side is thirds, fifths, and sevenths, they always go from one type of note to another type of note. They leap. So this space goes to another space note. This space goes to another space note. So if you can break it up into those, thinking it in those terms, you'll be able to identify intervals faster. And you're probably wondering, okay Andrew, why is identifying intervals so important? Well, there's a good reason for this, because just like we were trying to learn to read the notes, it's also very, very, very important to learn the intervals. Because what happens is, you can read intervals faster than you can read note names, because you don't want to be going G, F sharp, A, B, C, D, 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 C, B, A, G, B, C, jumping all over the place. You can just tell yourself up a second, down a third, up a fourth, down a third, up a sixth, second up, second down, And you can just read it like that and tell your hand to do those specific instructions and it'll do them. So just take my word for it for now. This learning to recognize intervals quickly is extremely important to reading music quickly. It's called intervallic reading. Okay, intervallic reading. Okay. So the seconds, the fourths, the sixths, and the eighths. This will help you recognize the intervals faster. They are on they don't have the same note in common. So an even interval won't have the same note in common. Then, judging by how far apart it is, you can guesstimate what kind of an interval it is. First you look to see if it's on the same, and then how far apart it is. So this eighth is a huge distance apart, and it's a space to a line, so that's an eighth. Or the seventh is a huge distance apart, but it's a space to a space, so it's probably going to be a seventh. So that's what'll help categorize them for you. Like to do a third, you just go from one space to another space. The very next one, up or down, that's always going to be a third. Whether it'll be a major third or a minor third is a different question. But we're not going to get into that right now. But going from a space to a space, or going from a line to the next line up or the next line down, is always going to be a third. Okay? Always. Now fifth, which is quite common, used in chords, or Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Anyway, a fifth is a space or a line. A space, skip the space and go to the next space. So there's one space in between, or one line in between. And that's how you do a fifth. A fifth is just space, skip a space, next space. There you go, that's a fifth. All the time. And you can just recognize that very quickly if you see that. It's all about how you can project what's on the page into your mind in a way that you can see it more clearly. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to give you tips and tricks so that you can recognize them faster. Okay? So sixth is space to line. Now it doesn't matter whether this is a harmonic interval, which is played at the same time, or melodic. It's separated. Now where do we get those terms from? Well, have you ever heard of harmony? So harmony is when it's a chord. A harmony has to do with chording. All those notes sound good together. That's harmonic. Technically you could have even something that sounds bad and that'll still be harmonic. That'd be, like this is harmonic. Now, something that would be melodic is short for melody. So melody is when you are singing a vocal line, or it's the melody is a single note doing something. That would be a melody. Okay? It's going somewhere. It's going up and down, and it's not having chords. It's not all down at the same time. It's moving around. Okay? That's melody versus harmony. So that's where they get these, because these are going down at the same time. That's harmonic. If it's going from dun 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 dun, then that's melodic. Okay, so that's a brief thing on intervals there. What you should do is get cards, flashcards, and look at those intervals very, very closely. Okay? Do those intervals like mad crazy. I had a student who did them for like 2 weeks, and then she was just crazy fast at them. And she could just read music much faster. So I highly, 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 highly recommend that you do flashcards for intervals, okay? Intervallic reading is the way to go. No questions asked. Okay, now the next thing you're going to do, well, not going to do. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you guys is a brief kind of, I'm just showing you what a sharp, a natural, and a flat look like. So in my other video, I showed you what a sharp and a flat look like on the piano, but what do they look like on sheet music? A sharp sign looks like the pound sign on a keyboard or on a phone. So it's just like the number, so the number sign. So it's just dun 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 dun, and that little box has to be in whatever note that it's on. So these two lines should be on if this was a note on the line, it should be on the line with the note. Okay? And whenever you're doing these sharps, naturals, or flats, they're actually called accidentals. Okay? Later on you get into key signatures, and I'll show you that later down the road. But these are called accidentals because they happen in the music. It's sort of like they're only there for a little bit and then they go away. Now the rule with accidentals is they are in effect until the end of the bar unless there's something else that happens on that note. So say we have a C sharp. Now if there was no natural here and no flat, we would play C sharp, and even though there's no sharp sign here and no sharp sign there, we'd still play C sharp until the end of the bar, and then we'd go back to playing C, because it gets cancelled at the end of the bar. Okay? It's like a criminal that can't escape jail, but it can wander around in its cell, unless you shoot it dead. Now that would be what a natural sign does. A natural, right here, brings it back always to the original key. So this natural C, so a C natural would just be a C. Okay, now we have a flat, and a flat lowers it down one semitone, and that's basically it. This is what a flat looks like. Now the thing is, you always have to put them before the note. So it's like sharp, this C, natural, this C, flat, this C. You can't put the note and then the flat after, because then you've already played the note and the flat comes later. Okay, so you gotta just be careful about that. Okay. All right. So those are sharps, naturals, and flats. All right. So you'll see those, and just remember the rule that if there's a bar line, it stays in effect until the end of the bar. Okay, you can seriously get tricked if you don't remember that rule. Okay, so those are some rules there. Now I'm going to look over a few Italian terms and whatnot for you, so you know a little bit about dynamics. Okay, so let's continue. Alright, so here's some terms that we're going to go over. Now, music was, the central point of music when all these were going on was Vienna, and it sort of all centralized around one language, which was Italian, but it was mixed up with a few other ones. Like there's some French terms, and there's some German terms, and there's some Latin terms, and blah blah blah. Like there are other terms, but the main language that all these terms are in is Italian, actually. So, let's learn Italian! No. I'm going to show you what it looks like in the music. Then I'm going to tell you what the actual Italian, how you'd say it, and then I'm going to show you what the definition of it actually is, so what you want to do when you come to this. Okay? So these ones are just very basic, and it should allow you to generally play the music the way it's supposed to be played. Okay? Now, the first one we're going to look at is F. So whenever you see F, you're going to play forte. What does that mean? Well, translated, that means loud. So whenever you see F written on the music, you're going to play loudly until it says not to play loudly. So until you get to another letter that tells you something else. So let's keep going. So F is forte, which is loud. So F is loud. Okay? Forte is loud. Okay, now the next one is P. P as in piano. Now you're probably thinking, what? Piano is what? Okay, piano is soft. Now does that make any sense to you? Well, it might make sense to you when you hear that the first pianos were actually called, well, they weren't actually, there's harpsichords and clavichords and all these other instruments before that way back in the day. But the modern piano evolved from something called the forte piano. So it was a piano, but it was an instrument basically that was capable of playing forte and piano. So they called it a pianoforte. Wow, isn't that original? You'll find that most of these names just make common sense. It's not like someone just sat there and tried to think up a very, very confusing, unrelated name. They're all they're logical. So, piano actually means soft, forte means loud. So the instrument was called loud soft. That's what it was translated to. So this thing that we're playing, its real full name would be a loud soft. I'm gonna go play my loud soft for a second, okay? So I was just kind of like this, so I couldn't really play that great, but okay. That's what, so forte means loud, piano means soft. Okay, so P for piano, piano is soft. Think of F for, to remind yourself that F is loud, think of fireworks. Okay? And whenever I think of piano or soft, I think of sleeping. I'm just like, sleep, which is something I should probably be doing right now. It's 3 in the morning. But don't feel guilty, because I'm doing this of my own free will. Okay, so piano, I think of pillow, like P for pillow. It's like, I'm going to hit the pillow and go to sleep. It's like a softer sound, like a soft pillow. Very, very soft, okay? Well, not very soft, because there are other terms. Okay, so actually if you see 2 Fs, that means very loud. If there are 2 Fs side by side, that would be very loud, and 2 Ps, that's very soft. So just, if there's double, then it just means very soft, very loud. So you might encounter those, that's what it means. Okay, now there's MF and MP. So these ones are sort of like middle ground. So mezzo, or MF actually means mezzo forte. Now mezzo means moderately. So moderately loud. So that's what the translation is, moderately loud. So MF means moderately loud. So M is pretty easy because M and moderate, they both are the same letter. So moderately, and then F is loud. So moderately loud. So I bet you can probably guess what MP is then. M for moderately, P for piano, which is soft. So moderately soft. Ta-da! So an MF sound is something that's not really that loud. So I'd be like, and then this would be probably MP. And then this is piano. And then this is forte. So it's sort of layer upon layer stacked. It's like piano, mezzo piano, mezzo forte, forte. And then you can get into higher and lower ones. But those are the 4 tiers to start off with, okay? Okay, so mezzo forte and mezzo piano. Like mezzo forte is just like generally holding back, just adding a little bit of weight. Mezzo piano is generally holding back, not trying to hold back too much to make it really soft, but you're just sort of giving it a little bit extra. Okay, but you're not. Did that make any sense? It's mezzo piano, it's like you're not playing piano, you're not trying to baby it, but you're not trying to baby it, but at the same time you're not reefing on it, okay? So it's sort of like piano but holding back a little. Okay, now the next 2, these can be sort of confusing if you have no idea what's going on. Because all you see is this really long outstretched thing and you're like, what is going on? It just looks like something expanding or contracting. So actually how this is think of this as the volume. So it starts out small and it gets wider and wider and wider. So what's actually happening? The sound is getting larger or bigger or wider. So they also abbreviate this sometimes as C-R-E-C, crap. So it's actually pronounced crescendo. Crescendo. So what it means is it actually means gradually getting louder. Okay, that's what it means. Gradually getting louder. So gradually getting louder is a crescendo. Crescendo is gradually getting louder. Alright, so what that would sound like is it's sort of like if you were trying to do this. Here's a crescendo. Why is my key dirty? Sorry, I'm kind of a neat freak sometimes. So here's a crescendo. Okay, so it started off soft. That would be a decrescendo. So I'm getting louder, like I'm louder already, and I'm going to get softer. Ah, I missed my note. It's too late for me to be playing. Okay, so that would be a D crescendo. So it's starting louder, getting softer. So it's just getting softer and softer and softer. And those are some terms. So those will help you. Now I've got one last thing to show you, and then that'll be it. So we've got a few more things to go over, and this will be it. So I'll try to do this quickly. Okay, so there's two types of touches that you want to have when you're playing piano. There's like two sides of the seesaw here, so to say. Okay, so one of them is called staccato. Now it can be summed up like this. It's supposed to sound separated. So it would be notes that sound like this. So notice how they were all separated, okay? That is staccato. Staccato is detached, it sounds separate. A way to remember it is think that the keys are hot. They're like, ow, 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 ow. You don't want to hold on to the keys very long, okay? So that's staccato. And it looks like this. It's a regular note, and then above the note, or below the note, right? Depending on which way the stems are going, you'll put a little dot over it. And don't confuse that with a dotted half note or whatever, because the dot is to the right of it. This is totally different. A staccato doesn't lengthen the value or anything of it. It just, you play it off, and then you just come in with the next note when you come onto that beat. So you go like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, kind of like that. So that is staccato, right there. Okay, now the flip side of that is legato. Legato. And that is smooth. Okay, that's what it really means, smooth. It can also think of it as joined together, or just together, like they're all together. Now, it's usually by something called a phrase. A phrase is like this little thing here that's connecting all these together, and it's once they want you to play it together like this. This would be staccato, the same notes. So do you hear the difference? This is legato, this is smooth, and this is staccato. So for this purpose of this video, I'm not going to show you how to play them yet. I will get into how you're going to play all this stuff eventually in lessons coming up, but I want to lay a groundwork so that you know what you're looking at when you're seeing this music. Because the sooner you get this in your brain, the better it's gonna, you're gonna remember it down the road, okay? So I don't want to introduce all this stuff later. Alright, so just want to get this all out of the way first, and then we can plow through learning stuff on the piano and stuff like that. Okay, so legato, smoothly, it's together. It always has these phrase marks. Actually, it doesn't always. It depends on the style and the period. In early music, you have to go by exactly what they write. It's very structured. Whereas later on, they just want you to play things legato, and you just have to know. And you can generally think that if you don't see either one of these, if you don't see a staccato mark or a legato mark, then you can just assume that you'll probably want to play it legato, okay? Or staccato. I mean, it's up to your choice of what you sort of like, but generally you're going to go with legato. Now if you see this is called a phrase or slur. Slurs are like smaller phrases. They usually only connect 2 notes, and phrases connect usually more than 2 notes. So phrases are bigger ones, and think of them as clouds or something. They're poofy and they just go here, and you want to connect everything in the cloud, and then when it stops, you have to lift your hand off. You have to lift off. You always lift at the end of phrase marks. So there's always, you just lift off and then come down. So you want to be very graceful when you do your lifts. Do them very easily, and I'll show you how to do those later in a lesson coming up. Okay. So just think of it as clouds and then blue sky, so you have to lift up and then you're going to go back into the cloud or whatever when you get to another phrase, okay? So all those have to be connected. The cloud has to be connected. Okay, so that's legato. It's smooth, alright? Now the last one, it's called a tie. Now I was considering not even doing this, but I thought I'd just throw it in there because I had some extra space. So a tie is not to be confused with a slur. Now there's a big difference, but they look very similar, and it's quite often that people mess these up. So tie is actually, think of taking two cans or something and tying them together with a string. It's like, sort of like that. You've got this can and this can, or that note and that note, and you're going to tie them together with a string. And what's going to actually happen is this note and this note are actually going to become one note, and you're going to hold it all the way to the end. So if this is a quarter note and this is a quarter note, you're actually going to hold it for the same length of time you would hold a half note. Okay? 1, 2. Now, here's the rule about ties. You can't hold an F and then somehow hold a G. It just doesn't work. So ties have to be on the same note. Whereas slurs are always different notes because you can't connect the same note, can you? You can't. So, slurs or phrases, they always go from like an F to a G, or they go to a different note. Whereas a tied note has to stay the same. So if you see a C to a C, or a D to a D, that's a tie, and you have to hold it. Just add up all the value that it's held over, and you can actually have ties that go all the way across the page, and you can just have them go on for like 16 notes, sorry, 16 beats. So don't be ties. You just hold them as long. You start and you just hold them until the end of the tie is over, and then you lift off. Okay, that's a tie. So it's just held. Okay, so I hope you found all these terms and whatnot helpful. Okay, well, take care. I think I'm going to get to bed here because it's like 3:30 in the morning. So, take care, and I'll probably shoot some more videos soon. Okay, good luck, guys. Happy practicing. See ya.